Good morning and welcome to Nigeria Now, showing on your digital first Pan-African news network, TOS Television. My name is Merciful Ajinomo. Joining me in the studio is Adebayo Fajime. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Let's begin from Daily Trust newspaper. From the very top, we see courts to DSS give Kanu maximum comfort in detention. That story can be found on page on page 4 rather of the Daily Trust newspaper. What do you make of this story? I've seen this story on other news platforms talking about Kanu's comfort in detention. While being in detention, they're saying that let him give him allowance to carry out his religion, to practice his religion, and also be comfortable while in detention. What's your take?
Of course, he has right, to be treated very well because he's here to be convicted, and I see no reason, despite all the allegations against him. So he's still in trial. So until he is convicted, so he cannot be treated like a criminal also. So what the court is telling the DSS, I think it's very right. So, and it's a normal thing that he is expected to enjoy because he's here to be convicted.
Can we say the same of others who have been in this particular situation where they are yet to be convicted but are given a fair treatment while in detention?
And that is just a problem in the Nigerian society. In fact, you have so many people, in detention who are here to be convicted, and they are just rotting there. Do you get? So I think we have that problem as a nation. So, and I think it's something we need to really address.
Okay, still on the Daily Trust newspaper, we see police arrest 13 as thugs attack Barrow's campaign office in Kanu. That can be found on page 34. The banner headline there was talking about Omicron. Crude oil drops below $70 as travel ban threatens recovery. Two riders the first. Restrictions will affect Nigeria's economy, coming from experts, and then aviation sector at risk, coming from the IATA. All of this can be found on page 5. On 2022, NPC plans e-sensors in security risk areas. Now we can get that of course, on Daily Trust newspaper. Now about to Buhari endorse direct primaries. We can get it on page 5. And Jonathan is saying, why I built Almajiri schools. Get the details on page 4. Kaduna to prosecute 233 teachers working with fake certificate. That can be found on page 29 of the Daily Trust newspaper. This story of Kaduna State and education, it can go a while back. Even this year, where we had stories of teachers' entrenchment. What can you say of this story?
Well, it is to me it is a good development because certificate racketeering is a norm in our society, even in the political space. So, and if you have a teacher who is not well trained, you don't have a well trained teacher, and they are saying they are trained, and how do you expect somebody who is not trained to train someone else? So that could be dangerous, and that there is no way we can solve the problem we are faced with without quality education. Don't forget, in fact, this insecurity problem we are facing now is as a result of lack of education. You see a sort of people who are negating and opposing Western education, and we know that education is a disease, and without education, there is no way you can take care of yourself. So if you are not well trained, how do you want to train others? So though the government of Kaduna State has been so drastic, the way the headsman has been leading the people, but if we need to look at it very well in the positive side, I think it's a very good development. Those people should be removed, they should be sacked, and they get competent hands so that the future of the children will not be jeopardized.
Okay, we move over to the Daily Independent newspaper. The banner headline there is talking about 2023 presidential election. It says, choosing PDP candidate will be turbulent. That's coming from Governor Wike. He alleges plan by APC to rig the 2023 elections. We can get that story on page 6 of the Daily Independent newspaper. And then we see from the very top, society at risk from technology, new media coming from Gbajabiamila. And then police arrest 13 suspects over setting ablaze Kanu APC office building. And still on that newspaper, we see Lucky Igbinedion, former Edo governor, loses mother. We can get that story on page 29. Beside the picture of the day there, Kaduna to dismiss 233 teachers over fake certificate. that can be found on page 6. 10 months after Emirates returns with daily services to Lagos, Abuja, that can be found on page 6 as well. And then from just we see underneath the picture of the day there, Utomi, Anya, and Momodo is saying federal government hasn't learned from hashtag #EndSARS protest. We can get all of this story on the Daily Independent newspaper. On the business day, Nigeria's COVID cases ignore spike across sub-Saharan Africa. All of this can be found on page 30. Still on the business day, we see Business Day invites Nigeria's fastest growing firms for Africa ranking. And then on page 2, Moroccan firm acquires Nigeria's Mocha foam for $60 million. I will move over to the Daily Times newspaper. The banner headline there is Nigeria's security trauma will be over soon. Coming from the Vice President of Nigeria, Osinbajo, says breakup not solution to nation's problem. And then still we'll see from the very top, Kaduna set to dismiss 233 teachers with fake certificates. From the just below the paper right there, we see 274 million people will be in need worldwide in 2022. And that's a report coming from the United Nations. You can get out on page 3 of the Daily Times newspaper. And the Nigerian News Direct right here says, the banner headline is saying only 10% of 350,000 police workforce enjoy suitable accommodation. That's coming from the IGP, Inspector General of Police. And the writer says, serving in Nigerian force equals living in penury. And of course, that's coming from a police officer. That can be found on page 23 as well. Talking about the building collapse, enforce monitoring of structures to prevent reoccurrence. Surveyors urge federal government. That can be found on page 10. And then #EndSARS, I'll join Chanwo-Olu for peace walk. That's coming from Shegun and Washanya. We know of the peace walk story and how the Lagos State governor is calling for people, stakeholders, to engage with this peace walk. And we've seen how the Nigerians, like the people, are reacting to this development. What's your take on this peace walk that the Lagos State governor is coming about with?
The Lagos State government is trying to, trying to look for means to effect truce, especially with the youth constituent, because they are the most affected, in this case. They are the subject in this case, and you see so many of them, coming out saying, okay, we don't want this, we don't want that. So I think beyond that, the governor, Sanwo-Olu, needs to be very transparent to, especially on the report being submitted. And there are a lot of contradictory opinion on this. The panel set up say this is what we discover, and the white paper is countering what So I think beyond the peace work, there is need for him, urgent need for him, to be transparent, to bring to bear his leadership key, so that the whatever problem people have identified, because don't forget, election is coming, and one of the problems in our political system is lack of trust. So how do citizens, especially the youth, have trust in the leadership system? Because if people say this is what we saw, this is what we discover, and you in government say this is not, this is not the case, so there's contradiction. So it needs to come up and see how it can effect truth, so that the people, especially the youth, can have a lot of trust in its leadership system. I think beyond that, so just taking the work is not enough, but it needs to be more proactive and ensure that this issue is resolved, and people have a good opinion about this leadership.
Okay, on the Blueprint newspaper, the banner headline there says ex-deputy speaker Lasun opens up. APC didn't win Osun 2018 Guba election. Of course, we see three riders. The first says Omo Agege compensated for dirty job. He's hallucinating, talking badadash. That's coming from APC. And Omo Agege says, I won't dignify Lasun with response. Of course, this controversial story can be found on page 6 of the Blueprint newspaper, and other stories as well. Just grab yourself a copy of any of these newspapers and read upon them. And also do not forget, you can stay updated on our website, www.tostvnetwork.com. Our social media platforms are right there, so you can follow and stay updated with happenings in Nigeria and of course across Africa. Thank you again for staying with us on Nigeria Now this time. We'll see you Monday next week. Have a wonderful weekend. My name is Merciful Ajinomo.